can't go into it fully, but there was...
Well, we're now recording, so carry on with the IRA network and the dirty tricks campaigns.
Andrea Davison had out the back of where she stayed next to Alison Arridge, they had a caravan on the site, and she had very close connections with the IRA, and
that's Alison Arridge, whose mum ended up murdered, with Jonathan Aitken and Davison visiting ceremonially the body of the corpse that had been missing for how many months?
3 months. But Andrea Davison took Jonathan Aitken to the very site where the body was found, which was about 200 meters from the incident police caravan. So you're not going to tell me that for 3 months that these dedicated professional searchers of the North Wales Police plodded the same ground with sniffer dogs, couldn't find a corpse that had been lying there for 3 months, 200 meters from the bloody incident caravan, the police incident. Anyway, so Andrea Davison took Jonathan Aitken to the very site where her body was found. Now, whether that was in relation to covert operations of the intelligence services killing Alison Arridge's mother, I've no idea. But Alison Arridge told me personally that, and provided me with a letter which you haven't seen, which has been filed in the Royal Courts of Justice as evidence, that shows...
Is that a confound? I am taping this, you know that? Is the Royal Courts of Justice issue a confound? Does it mean I cannot release this video?
Well, it's in the current case, isn't it? It's in case HQ 10D.
So you're okay with me publishing this video when we end the conversation?
Well, I'm saying that there was a personal letter written by Andrea Davison to Miss Alison Arridge explaining why Alison Arridge's mother may have been murdered under orders, because she may have stumbled upon something related to arms to Iraq.
And have you talked recently to her daughter, who you thought was under an extreme psychological pressure load?
No, because I contacted the North Wales Social Services because I was in fear of her health, because she told me on the phone that she felt like she was dying, that there was something extremely wrong with her. And I know she's one of these people that do home cures, and I contacted the North Wales Social Services to make sure and do a visit on her to make sure she was okay. I then was informed by the North Wales Social Services that this goes beyond the remit of what they were involved in, that this sounded far more serious, and I was told to contact the North Wales Police, which I did, and they say they visited her and she was fine, but I've heard nothing from her since, and I've no wish to bring her into any health issues should they should they feel that she is being watched or by the security services or by the police or the network that operate with Andrea Davison. I'm not prepared to put
on that issue of broader law enforcement in the United Kingdom and Ireland. Can I just have a few minutes to talk about what I've found about the Law Society and the Scottish Justices Association? I made a 40-minute video with a man called John Patterson, who you now know, who's trying to expose all of these issues to the free press, in inverted commas, in the south of England. But we had, for technological reasons, the whole of that video shut down. So I'd just like to tell you about Mr. John Stuart Naismith, Naismith. He's registered in Kilmacombe in Scotland, PA13 4DS. He runs a company which is an executor's company which look after wills in the legal sector, but he's on the advisory board to the Parliament. I told you that joke yesterday. This Gaelic name for the Scottish Parliament is Parlourmaid Lalba. They're a set of slaves and they're a set of thieves, and this is one of their advisors on law enforcement. Now, when you go back into his business directories, They're family-run businesses. He's the Law Society representative on the Justice Committee with John Lamont, my local MSP, the man who in the meeting last week, a couple of weeks ago, on the Scottish referendum, I was allowed to ask him a question on 50 Lothian Road. Now, John Lamont said, "George, you know we will refuse to answer that question. We've received your emails on that question and that topic, but we are not in a position to do anything about that because it's serious multinational fraud." Now, this is the Speaker on behalf of the Better Off Together movement, who's planning to move up to Westminster next year. Yeah?
Yeah, because let me...
So can I just continue with John Naismith's record?
Yeah.
So he uses, as a previous secretary, way back in 1992, for the period of one day, Oswald's of Edinburgh, in a company called Buffering, and his family have got 6 different registrations. They all use the same dodgy people. The other people that they used on exactly the same day in 1992 was Jordan's Scotland Limited. Okay, and you realise the gravity of those accusations. But before I finish, can I just tell you about one other advisor to the Scottish Government? His name is Stuart Fair. Yeah, he's in the Scottish Justices Association. Now, I've discovered that all of my local representatives and solicitors are in a little cabal. They own parts of the NHS. They own the declaration of who gets to issue money out of the local councils. They are part of these money laundering networks. And Stuart Fair and the Scottish Justices Association are mentioned in the same PDF, a published document, as advisors to the Scottish Government on law enforcement in Scotland. Okay? And when I found out that he uses Thornton's Law LLP and Grant Thornton's links, and I found his trading address was at 2 Woodbury Grove, Finchley. I remember in our discussion the other day, which was not being recorded like this one, that you went ballistic. Can you tell me about the links of Oswald's of Edinburgh, Jordan's Scotland, and Thornton's Law LLP, and the Finchley networks from 2 Woodbury Grove, and the international crimes in which they are embroiled?
Yeah, George, for the average person that may use their common intelligence, is to understand when you steal hundreds of billions, you must have a vehicle to be able to launder it. Stealing it is easy. All you need is a signature on a document. That's the easy part. The laundering is the complex part, in order to create a maze which would be very difficult to identify the money trail. So what they need is boiler rooms which are set up by experts, and by experts I mean auditors and accountants, who have the ability to be able to format a structure, a maze of snakes and ladders, to have door slammers to stop people following the money trail. And for me, over the last 13 years, I've become very adept at following the money. And when you look at Jordan's and Oswald's, all you have to do is identify the common source. And those addresses, which include 50 Lothian Road, are just what they call mail forwarding addresses, which, if examined by some 15-year-old who banged on the door and had a chance to walk through all those street addresses, would understand what it's all about. It's very simple.
So the statistics I have from Jordan's of Scotland on that former registration for Stirling and Mayor, through whom Scottish citizens will be paying massive amounts of death duties as they inherit their home from their dead relatives. Yeah? That's death duties for the ordinary people. This is all about crashing companies and tax evasion. Jordans have crashed 978,000 companies of the 199, the 19,953 they've been involved in one-day transactions in. It is ruthless. The ordinary citizen has to pay for it. Carry on, Gordon. Keep going.
It's ruthless because people don't understand the mechanics of organised crime. I'm talking organised crime that is being supported and protected by members of the government, and I include David Cameron.
And we're talking about the rural solicitors on the streets of Scotland that are quite happy to take those death duties from their poor people, and they charge them £250 an hour for their advice, but they do not pay a cent in tax themselves because their revenues are in Delaware or Mexico or somewhere similar.
Or Panama.
Yeah,
or
absolutely.
The Virgin Islands or Barbados or the Channel Islands. Because when you do a director check of Jordan's, etc., what you will find out is that they have a common association to the boiler rooms that I named 6 years ago. And those are 1 Mitchell Lane in Bristol, and there's another address in Bristol. I don't know whether I should keep that QT for the moment, but there are two interconnected.
But when I said the 2 Woodbury Grove word to you the other day, you then began to go ballistic on the Prime Minister.
Go ballistic, George.
It was the Prime Minister's involvement through those notorious boiler rooms that we've talked about a lot, but not linked it into the Law Society in Britain. In Britain, the law enforcement companies do not have to register their business or their declarations on the business registers like the rest of us do. Yeah?
Yeah, listen, George, 2 Woodbury Grove is actually a flat, if you check it.
Yeah.
If you go into Google Maps UK and download the photograph.
So it's like Del Boy's flat in Finchley.
It's like Andrea Davison's address, which was a terraced house, dishevelled, with blinds all askew, just like 788, 790 Finchley Road. These are just vehicles for transienting hundreds, thousands of companies. Now, Woodbury Grove is actually Winnington House, just like Andrea Davison used Manchester House. It's just a terminology to give it an air of splendour. When you look at the facts and you download the photograph of that magnificent Winnington House, 2 Woodbury Grove, North Finchley, what you find out is the realities of where hundreds of thousands of dormant Russian doll, Chinese box shell companies are moved in and out of those addresses without filing any financial documents. Do you understand?
Yeah.
That they use these hundreds of thousands of dormant shell companies as transient vehicles for the stolen money that they have stolen for companies like BAE Systems, British Petroleum, all the top companies that are involved in covert actions all over the world. But Winnington House was specific to Woodbury Grove because they have common directors who, like Barbara Cahan and David Perlman and Mary Stephen, who operate out of 788, 790 Finchley Road, 923 Finchley Road, 665 Finchley Road. These are the network of interconnected Finchley Road boiler rooms that are moving over 1 million dormant shell companies.
And we've already published the links of those massive boiler rooms to the activities of Prime Ministers since Mrs. Thatcher all the way through to Tony Blair and David Cameron. And so can we stop making the video now, because I'm getting very near the 15-minute limit that has crashed previous ones.
Yeah, all right.
I'm gonna